Want to know what I have found to be a very effective method for taking dahlia cuttings? In this video, I'm going to share with you how I select dahlia sprouts that are ready for cutting, how I remove them from the tuber to maximize the number of sprouts I can take per tuber, what I use to pot them up, as well as what I do to prevent the cuttings from wilting and helping them develop roots and growing to the stunning flowers we cannot get enough of. Stay tuned till the end as I reveal the dahlia varieties that I've had delivered from Farmer Gracie, where I'm also going to share a quick tip on what you can do to speed up the sprouting of tubers and settle the impatience of taking your first cuttings. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Anka and I grow cut flowers here in Warwickshire, UK. I document my journey, sharing cut flower growing tips as well as my learning, experience and challenges I face along the way. Let's dive right in. In a previous video, I showed you how I pre-sprouted dahlia tubers that I started from seed, and if you've missed it, I will leave the link for you in the video description below. Within 2 to 3 weeks from initiating the pre-sprouting process, the tubers started to send up shoots, and so far I have been able to successfully root 12 dahlia cuttings. Today we're going to take another 7 cuttings, which means I will have almost tripled my stock of dahlia plants, while still having lots of other tiny sprouts underway. It's important to note that, depending on variety, a single dahlia tuber can give you anywhere from 5 to 20 sprouts, and I'll show you how you can maximize your harvest of cuttings. In order to take cuttings, we're going to need potting medium, in our case both seed starting mix and multi-purpose compost, and I'll let you in on a little secret as to why we're using both. A mixing tray or any other leak-proof container would do, water, 4-inch pots, labels, freezer bags, and a chopstick to poke holes in the compost for the cuttings to go in smoothly. Begin by adding multi-purpose compost to the mixing tray and combine it with water until the compost is evenly moist and holds shape when you squeeze it in your hand without it being drenched. Then fill out about 80% of the pot with this moist compost. Move on to mixing the seed mix with water and aim for the same consistency. You will need a lower amount of seed mix, just to top up the remaining 20% of the 4-inch pot. Use your hands to make a hole in the multi-purpose compost and add the seed mix to the hole. There are a number of reasons why I'm doing this. One, it's cheaper. Cuttings need free-draining soil to produce roots, and the seed mix is providing the right environment for this. However, it is more expensive than the multi-purpose compost, so I've come up with this technique where there's just enough seed mix for the cuttings to grow roots, and once the root system is strong enough, they can grow on in the multi-purpose compost. The second reason is I don't need to repot the dahlias. I like to transplant my dahlias when they have matured enough to handle the pest pressure, and the 4-inch pots are large enough to allow for sufficient growth. Had I rooted my cuttings in small cells with seed mix and then repotted them, I'd be wasting a lot more time. The third reason is the multi-purpose compost has some nutrition in it. The seed mix is great for root development, however, it doesn't provide any feed to the plants. So once the roots have formed and they can reach inside the multi-purpose compost, then this is when they come across the much needed nutrients. Now that your pots are filled with the planting medium, poke holes in the middle of each pot for the cuttings to slide in without any resistance, and prepare the labels with the names of each variety you're going to take cuttings from, so that you can remember who's who. Look for sprouts that are 2 to 3 inches tall, where the leaves have unfolded. There are different ways you can take cuttings. You can use scissors and cut at the base of the sprout. You can take the cuttings along with a little bit of the tuber, but the method I prefer is the pull method. Essentially, I loosen the sprout by tilting it side to side until it can be easily pulled from its eye. One of the reasons why I prefer this method is because once you pull the sprout from its eye, you create space within the same eye for new sprouts to shoot up. There isn't much plant material left there from the previous shoot, compared to the scissor cut method, for example, where the base of the shoot remains there, blocking the way. Another reason why I prefer this method is because it ensures the area around the eye remains unaffected, and you don't compromise the integrity of the tuber itself when you take a cutting, unlike the method where you cut off some of the tuber material that could have produced other eyes and therefore more sprouts. All methods work, and it's a matter of preference, but I find that the pull method is the highest yielding for the reasons I just mentioned. Once you've taken a cutting, remove the bottom leaves, place it in the pot and firm the soil around the stem. Then be sure to give it a drink of water, add the corresponding label to the pot and place the pot in a freezer bag that's sealed 3/4 of the way to allow for good airflow. Right after cutting, the highest risk is that the plant loses too much moisture via transpiration, so the role of the bag is to maintain a humid atmosphere around the plant to prevent dehydration. Once all cuttings have been potted and bagged, place them under lights and keep an eye on them to check for any signs of wilting. Add water only if the soil loses moisture. All of my cuttings rooted within a week and they remained crisp throughout with no sign of dehydration. After the first week has passed, remove them from the bag and continue to keep them under lights and water as needed. Transplant them outdoors when all risk of frost has passed and the soil is starting to warm up. Dahlias love the heat. As mentioned in a separate video, aside from multiplying your stock of dahlias on a budget by creating clones of the same variety, other reasons you would pre-sprout dahlias include testing the viability of tubers before placing them into the ground, and giving them a head start by allowing the plants to grow larger indoors while the weather is still cold for them to be transplanted into the ground. As promised, I will now show you the 7 varieties of dahlias that I purchased from Farmer Gracie. They all fall within a dusky color palette with peachy pinks and warm oranges, vibrant purples and mauves, and dusky pinks and gold hues. I'm going to clean all of these tuber clumps without going into much detail here, by removing old roots and damaged tubers. On this occasion, I'm not going to divide any tubers. Instead, I will allow the undivided clumps to pre-sprout and I'll briefly show you how. For this project, we're going to need multi-purpose compost, mixing tray, water, shallow trays, snips for cleaning the tubers, labels, and a propagator with humidity dome. Same as before, mix the compost with water. Add the moist compost to the shallow trays and prepare the labels with names. Once all tuber clumps have been cleaned, place the whole clumps in the trays and cover them with a layer of compost by allowing the growth points of the tubers to be exposed. I'm no longer dividing the tubers because I've seen no difference in sprouting between whole clumps and individual tubers, but it's not always obvious where the eyes are going to be on the tuber before they wake up, so now I prefer to divide them after they sprout. At this point, you can put your trays under lights and wait for the tubers to send up shoots, but here's the tip I mentioned at the start of the video on how to speed up the sprouting. Tubers need a warm and moist environment to wake up, a lot like your cooking potatoes that sprout in your kitchen because of the steam. We can create this greenhouse environment by placing our trays under a humidity dome. The vents should be left open to allow air to flow freely, otherwise that excess humidity can work against you. This steamy atmosphere is going to help the tubers sprout a little quicker, but be cautious, and if you notice too much condensation, make sure to remove the humidity dome. It is important to note here that as soon as the first eye has developed on one of the tubers, the humidity dome has done its job and you no longer need it. If you don't have a humidity dome, place the clumps in freezer bags along with moist compost and the name tag, and just as before, seal the bag 3/4 of the way to simulate a vent. Your tubers will sprout in no time. As the plants develop, I will provide updates, so make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can be the first one to find out about their progress. If you do decide to try pre-sprouting dahlias yourself, there still is plenty of time, so please do let me know about it in the comment section along with any questions you may have. I really hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please consider hitting that like button. Have a fantabulous rest of your day.